Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to give it just another minute or so and let everyone join the room before we get started. All right, I think we have a good majority of individuals who are joining us, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Jackie Sparrow. I'm the benefits supervisor here at CSU, and I'm here with Erin Malone, our benefits analyst. We appreciate you taking some time and being with us today. We are going to walk through the retirement process at CSU and what's available, how to prepare for it, what to expect, and especially as an HR contact supporting employees through this transition, what some of those responsibilities are. We're going to start with a few important details before we get going. So this session will be recorded and posted on the HR website. Also, as we go through today's session, please feel free to drop any questions and use the Q&R feature down at the bottom of your screen. We'll address them as we go, as we have time, and we'll leave some time at the end for questions as well if we have more time available. We do ask that you please avoid including any sensitive or identifiable or personal employee information in any of the questions that you have in the Q&A. All right, so today our agenda is we're going to cover the preparing for retirement, the role of the HR professional, the retirement process overview, and then we'll wrap up with a section on transitional retirements. So just as a quick reminder too, this presentation summarizes benefits and processes. If there's ever a conflict, the official plan documents will always take precedence and will govern. So with that, I will turn it over to Erin to kick us off with preparing for retirement. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you, Jackie, and thank you all again for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time. We are going to start this morning by talking about preparing for retirement. So those folks, this information is beneficial for whether you yourself are considering retirement or if you are an HR professional supporting employees in your area who are considering retirement or approaching retirement. To kick us off, let's talk about the university's definition of retirement. So kind of big picture here, who is eligible to retire? That is going to be an employee who is in the defined contribution plan or DCP, who's a participant in Colorado PARA. These employees must be age 55 or greater with at least 20 years of service, or age 60 or greater with at least 5 years of service. So that brings up the question of what is considered service for retirement. For this purpose, service is considered employment with CSU during which the employee received or was eligible to receive CSU's contribution to retirement. They had an appointment of at least half-time or 50% FTE, and they received or were eligible to receive the university's contribution to their benefits as well. Before we move on to the next slide, it is worth noting that PARA retirement for those employees in PARA is a little bit different of a process. We'll go into more depth later, but employees may be eligible to retire through PARA, but not necessarily CSU. So there can be circumstances like that. They are slightly different processes, but this slide does show the university's definition of retirement eligibility. And we can go ahead. Thanks, Anna Maria. So this is a question that we encounter in the benefits unit a lot, and I'm sure HR professionals, you all who are on this meeting also get this question from employees who are contemplating retirement in the next few years. So what are those things that they should be doing and they should be looking at this point? The first thing we recommend is that they review their current voluntary retirement plan contributions to maximize savings. So employees do contribute to either the DCP or PARA with those mandatory contributions, but the university offers several voluntary savings accounts as well for employees to make additional contributions to retirement and really maximize those savings. So this is definitely the time, if you're a few years out from retirement, to start contemplating that and making sure that you're financially set up the best you can be while you're still having that regular income to support yourself in retirement. The second thing we recommend doing is sending an email to our benefits team at hr_retirement@colostate.edu to confirm eligibility. There are circumstances where maybe an employee has service that they didn't realize counts towards retirement eligibility, or vice versa. They have time that they thought did and it doesn't. So it's always good to check with the HR retirement group to just make sure that your understanding is in alignment with what we would confirm with our HR operations resources team as far as years of service to help kind of target what your retirement date from CSU will be and when you'll be truly eligible for that. We also encourage employees at this stage of kind of a few years out from retirement to contact their retirement company, the vendor they work with. For the majority of employees, it's going to be Fidelity or Para to review finances and income sources in retirement. Some employees in the DCP or who have previously contributed to a 403B may also have funds with TIAA or Corebridge. So if you do, it would be worth contacting those vendors as well. But for the bulk of our employees, it's going to be Fidelity and Para. We did want to call out here a specific nuance for folks who are in the DCP, but actively employed and begin receiving a Para annuity while employed with CSU. For these individuals, CSU, the employer, offsets the employer contribution to the DCP by the amount that is required to be paid into Para for that individual, which essentially offsets those folks' DCP contribution to zero. So for a handful of employees who are in the DCP but have are receiving a Para annuity while employed with CSU, they will not be receiving the employer contribution to that DCP. And then the last couple bullet points, since we're just in this information gathering stage, kind of planning for the next few years, we have a lot of information out on our human resources website about retiring. We have a general overview web page as well as more specific pages for if you're a DCP retiree or Para or more tailored to specific situations. So definitely a good time to start reviewing that information as well as verifying current benefit coverages to research coverage needs after retirement for medical coverage. All right. And then when things get a little more real and an employee is contemplating retirement in the next few months, what does that change? There are some steps that are quite similar, but other steps that are more specific action items for those individuals who are closer to their retirement. The first is going to be to contact the benefits team in human resources to schedule a retirement counseling session. Again, employees can just reach out to that hr_retirement@colostate.edu. And I see Jackie drop that in the chat as well, that email. They can reach out there. There's a web link on our website for scheduling as well, whatever is easiest for the employee, just to get in touch with the team, verify eligibility, talk through the process, and have that one-on-one service. We also ask that employees in the stage notify their department HR professional and supervisor of their upcoming retirement to ensure that everything goes smoothly from the department side as well and help with a more seamless transition. Again, calling or meeting with their retirement vendor is very critical at this stage to help ensure a full understanding of retirement finances, either Fidelity or Para. For Para individuals, they do need to also submit their retirement application directly to Para. So that's really a critical step for those folks in Para to make sure they submit that retirement application, which it can be done through their online Para account or hard copies. We can certainly assist with that as well. We'll go into the Para retirement process a little more in depth later, but did want to call that out. We also encourage employees who are retiring in the next few months to contact Social Security and apply for Medicare if they're eligible and planning to enroll in those benefits, and also to work with our HR benefits team to enroll in CSU post-retirement benefits if they are eligible for those through CSU. And I did want to take a moment here. We've talked a lot about contacting your retirement vendor, and so I did want to provide some resources for how to do that. For Fidelity specifically, I want to highlight that we do have Fidelity Workplace financial consultants who are regularly on our campus. They have a heavy presence here all over campus, meeting with employees and providing one-on-one personalized retirement finance planning. These appointments can be scheduled through Fidelity's website, and they do on-campus or virtual appointments, phone, whatever is most convenient for you. They really want to help be a resource for our employees. For para participants, there are some useful tools available through your Colorado Para online account. One of the coolest resources, I think, is they have a benefit calculator where you can log in and kind of plug and play with the numbers a little bit to help determine what your optimal timing is to maximize your pension benefit as far as how many years of service and things like that. And you can also schedule appointments with para representatives through that online account as well. All right, now that we have talked about preparing for retirement a little bit, we wanted to jump into the role of the HR professional. Retirement is a huge personal and career transition, and HR professionals in our department absolutely play a pivotal role in helping support those transitions and for those employees. So we have some best practices here about how the HR professional can help support through this transition and partner with the human resources benefits team. The first is just to provide support and initial guidance. So when employees are coming to you with those questions that we kind of covered on the previous slides of what should I be doing, just help guide them gently, point them in the right direction for contacting retirement vendors, reaching out to the benefits team, making sure that they have the knowledge to make the best decision for them. The referral to the HR benefits team is huge, especially for those retirees who they're ready, they've got a date in mind. Definitely refer them to our team for that retirement counseling. We recommend doing the retirement counseling, completing that about 60 days before your last day of work. So that is also a very important piece where we partner with our HR professionals to make sure that counseling happens. And third, we have internal notification and coordination. So most employees often will want to announce their news in their own fashion, but if they do request assistance with that, if there's any sensitivity or anything, the HR professional can definitely assist with that department communication if requested by the employee. And then a very important piece here is entering that retirement date in Oracle by the 10th of the retirement month, or the month in which the employee is going to work their last day. That is very important for ensuring timely payouts of leave, if applicable, and also post-retirement benefits as well. And of course, retirement and transition planning, confirming that retirement date with the employee to ensure alignment with payroll cycles. And then as HR professionals, our HR professionals know the department in and out, so definitely having those transition plan discussions to make sure that there is transfer of knowledge and training as this employee who's retiring transitions out into this next phase of their life. Documentation and offboarding tasks. These are often pretty department specific, although we do request that you obtain written notice of retirement from the employee. Coordinate any offboarding tasks such as equipment return, access removal, exit interview if that's your department policy, and confirming final leave balances and submitting to HR. And then the last part, the fun part, depending on the employee's preference, coordinating recognition in alignment with your department process and again, what that employee is comfortable with to help celebrate and thank them for their years of service to CSU. And we do have a couple of additional reminders and recommendations for best practice to ensure a more seamless transition in retirement processing for HR professionals. The first one is a big one. I think that is often misunderstood. Employees must be at least 50% half-time during the 5 years immediately preceding retirement. So this is kind of a caveat on that retirement eligibility that we talked about earlier, where they must be half-time at least in the full 5 years before retirement. So where this really comes into play is if you're working with an employee who's considering reducing their time, or perhaps you're working with a department where they need to suspend an assignment for any reason, and you suspect that employee may be eligible for retirement based on their years of service, do contact human resources before proceeding, because if we can retire that individual, that is far more advantageous, even if they do return to work later. It often is much more beneficial to the employee for them to retire and then return versus dropping below that half time or suspending and interrupting retirement eligibility. So something very important to keep in mind if you're working with those types of situations, just to have that kind of in the back of your mind of checking with the retirement eligibility piece. Keeping initial retirement discussions confidential is very important. The benefits team does this as well. When an employee approaches us regarding retirement, that doesn't necessarily trigger automatically notifying supervisor or anything. We do want to keep those conversations confidential until the employee is ready to share that news. It can sometimes be a hard or sensitive topic. I know all our HR professionals on our call are absolutely used to dealing with those types of conversations. So just a reminder to keep those confidential until the employee is ready to announce that retirement to their colleagues. And then we kind of touched on this already, but we'll just reminder again to confirm timely processing of Oracle actions. Timely processing has a huge impact on employees for their post-retirement benefits and access to retirement funds. So it's important to make sure those actions are being entered before the payroll cycle in the month in which the employee retires, to help everything go more smoothly. And then there is one example we wanted to provide for para employees specifically. For those retirees with para who are retiring from the university or retiring with para, please enter their retirement date in Oracle as the actual last day of work, not the first of the month following. Where this can get a little confusing is that para does view an employee's para retirement date as the first of the month following their last day of work. But from CSU's side, we want their retirement date to be the actual last day of work. Otherwise, that can often delay their first pension payment, which is very detrimental to the employee. An example of this would be an employee that had their last day of work be yesterday, June 30th. Do put June 30th as the term date in Oracle so that para picks up a July 1st retirement date. If we were to enter July 1st from the CSU side as their retirement date, para is actually going to delay their para retirement date till August 1st. So very important to treat their retirement date in Oracle as the actual last day of work for those para retirees. All right, so we're going to pause here for questions that might have come in before we kind of dive into more of what this retirement process actually looks like for employees. So I'll just pop it over to Jackie, see if there's been any questions that have come in that we want to address for the group.
No, amazing information, Erin. No questions so far, but I'll keep an eye on and let you know if there's any that come up.
Awesome, that sounds great. Thanks, Jackie. And like Jackie mentioned, we'll save some time at the end for questions too. So if you do have some questions simmering, just pop them in that Q&A and we'll check back in later. All right, so we're going to spend some time now talking about the retirement process overview and what actual steps are necessary for each employee type. It does vary depending on whether an employee is in the defined contribution plan or para, so we'll do kind of some sections on both. To start out today, we're going to talk about the retirement process overview for faculty and administrative professionals in the defined contribution plan, or that DCP. So step one, again, is request retirement counseling, and recommend employees do this about 60 days before retirement, if possible, to give us adequate lead time to make sure we can verify eligibility and complete all the forms. That retirement counseling can be requested via a web form or, again, emailing that HR retirement group. That QR code on the screen there is going to go right to our web page that is specific for DCP retirees, and you'll see that link on there to schedule a retirement counseling if you would prefer to do it that way. Otherwise, email is always great as well. Notify your department. They are going to, as we covered in the previous slides, that the HR professionals department is a key stakeholder in this, so definitely want to keep communication open and notify them as soon as you are comfortable notifying them of your upcoming retirement. Step 3, submitting the retirement checklist. This is a 2 or 3 page document that goes over all the specifics of the benefits and responsibilities of being a CSU retiree. We do request that retirees sign and complete that to the complete and sign and return to the Human Resources Office prior to their last day of work so that we can keep it in their benefits file and complete the retirement counseling process. Step 4 is signing up for health benefits. This can be a very complex area and an area of a lot of concern for a lot of retirees. So we do have some slides later on in the presentation that are going to address this a little bit more specifically. But that could be Medicare, COBRA, coverage through a spouse, partner, or other employer. There's a lot of different coverage options, but definitely want to be sure to take care of your coverage needs after retirement. Step 5, enroll in the DCP refund with WEX. If you are determined to be eligible for this benefit, this is a benefit where the university reimburses eligible retirees for out-of-pocket medical premium expenses. So you do need to enroll in that as part of your retirement process if you're eligible. And then step 6, contact your retirement company to help administer access to your funds. There is a 45-day waiting period following your last day of work before you can access DCP funds. So just keep that in mind for financial planning as well, that 45-day hold essentially or waiting period, just to make sure all final pay cycles, all deposits are completed to your retirement account before you access those funds. CSU should automatically update your retirement company of your status as a retiree after that 45 days has passed. All right, I previously touched on the DCP retiree premium refund, so we did want to go into depth a little bit more on that since it is a great benefit for our DCP retirees, and something that we want to make sure there is a high level of understanding on as well. The DCP retiree medical premium refund provides a monthly subsidy to eligible retirees to reimburse their out-of-pocket premium expenses. It only covers medical insurance premiums. It doesn't cover dental and vision specifically, and it does not cover copays and deductibles. It's for those premium costs. AFAP employees who contribute to the DCP for retirement and are eligible for CSU retirement may enroll in this subsidy program. The exact amount of the subsidy varies depending on their years of service. It's prorated accordingly, depending on how many years of service they have at the time of retirement. This program is enrolled or is administered by a third-party administrator called WEX. So eligible retirees will enroll directly with WEX by completing a premium reimbursement and direct deposit form, and those will be submitted directly to WEX. The timing of enrollment is very critical. Employees must enroll by the 20th of the month in which they retire. So if you're working or if you are a July retiree, you would need to have those forms submitted to WEX no later than July 20th to ensure that your payments could begin August 1st. If your direct deposit information is not received, they do process reimbursements via postal check as well. And retroactive payments are not processed. That is a very important piece of this, is that we need to make sure retirees are enrolling timely so that there's no delay in their payments. Payments are always processed, enrollments are always processed on a go-forward basis, the first of the month following enrollments. All right, and then kind of our last piece on the DCP retirees, we do get a high number of questions about working after retirement. That process also is quite different depending on whether you are a DCP or para-retiree. So this slide is specific to our DCP retirees, and we'll cover para-retirees a little later. DCP retirees who are returning to work do not have restrictions on when they can return to work following retirement. They may even retire and come back the next week. There's not restrictions on when or how much they can work. Arrangements on returning to work are between you, the retiree, and the hiring department. Although there's not restrictions on when you can return to work, there are some impacts to consider. If you return to work as a benefits eligible employee, the DCP premium refund that we just discussed on the previous slide will stop, even if you waive medical coverage. If you become eligible again as a benefits eligible employee, that refund stops until you end that benefits eligible appointment and re-enroll in the DCP refund. If you return as a non-student hourly or AFAP less than 50% FTE, your DCP premium refund may continue if you waive medical coverage, if you are offered medical coverage through the Affordable Care Act. And with that, I think we are going to turn it over to Jackie to talk us through our process for our para-retirees.
Perfect. Thank you, Erin. There's one question that just popped in on the DCP. So I'm going to stop here. If an employee qualifies for the DCP medical premium refund plan and after retiring from CSU begins working elsewhere where health insurance is provided, how does this affect their CSU medical benefit? And can they still use the health benefit anytime after retirement?
Yeah, that's a great question. The DCP refund is meant to reimburse retirees for any out-of-pocket medical premium expense. So if they do work elsewhere and have a premium that they are paying for, the program can still be applied to that. Medicare premiums, it applies to anytime there's an out-of-pocket expense for that retiree. And it is worth noting it is for just the retiree as well, not for spouse or other dependent coverage. And they do continue that. Retirees can continue that benefit for the rest of their life as long as they're paying medical insurance premiums. However, the program does require annual re-enrollments. So very important for those retirees to remember each fall to go ahead and re-enroll for the coming year so that there's no interruption to payments.
Right, perfect. Thank you, Erin. All right, I think we are ready to get moving to para. So I appreciate you sharing all the valuable information about the DCP. So now we'll walk through retirement for our faculty and admin pros enrolled in Colorado Para. So the process is similar to what Erin outlined previously. So the first two steps are going to be very close to the same. So the first two are requesting retirement counseling. And employees should also notify their department and supervisor once they've selected a retirement date. The next step is applying for para-retirement. So this is a really critical step. And as Erin mentioned previously, the application should be submitted directly to para within 60 to 90 days prior to their intended retirement date. So the employee can apply online using a specific PIN number to access their para account and complete all those forms electronically. Or the para application can also be requested hard copy and submitted either via fax or mail directly to para. So the para application includes 4 forms. It's the retirement application, a tax withholding form, and a direct deposit form. And the final form is what's called the final 6-month salary report. And this final 6-month salary report is submitted electronically by our payroll team once the payroll for the retirement month is processed for that employee. And as Erin mentioned previously, it's important that departments make their retirement entry and submit final payout information to payroll on time. So delays in submitting either any payout information or any submission for that retirement action can affect the 6-month salary report from being completed, which then results in a delay of the first annuity payment for the retiree. The final 6-month salary report is due the 15th of the following month. So in the month that's effective for retirement for the employee. So that gives our payroll unit plenty of time to complete that after the submission of the payouts and that final pay, and then get that form directly to para so that they can issue the first annuity check. All right. So then the next section, again, is very similar. So the retiree should submit the CSU retirement checklist after meeting with our benefits team. Following that review, they'll keep a copy for themselves and then submit that signed copy to our team. The next is reviewing the post-retirement health benefits. And a few slides from now, we'll talk a little bit more about those options. And then finally, the enrollment in any additional post-retirement benefits if eligible. So this may include the para subsidy or the umbrella RX program. But please know that the para post-retirement benefits are frozen and available to those employees who transition to an AP faculty role prior to July 1st of 2009. So we'll do a verification when we pull that assignment history and make a determination if you may be eligible for those subsidies through Colorado Para. All right, so next is going to be the state classified, the para-retirement process for state classified employees. And this process is nearly identical to the one that we just spoke about. So again, scheduling that retirement counseling appointment, notifying their department or supervisor, applying for para-retirement through those same methods, submitting the CSU retirement checklist to the benefits team, and then enrolling in any after retirement health benefits. There are also a lot of resources through Colorado Para if an employee would wish to watch videos. They host a variety of different webinars that also walk through that process and considerations for para-retirement. And that can be utilized by any who's a para participant or by any state classified employee. So I encourage you to take a look at those para specific benefits. Also, just to reiterate, para-retirement applications must be submitted directly through para, ideally 60 to 90 days prior to that retirement date. And then if employees have any specific questions about retirement timing, monthly annuity amounts, or any other specific para benefit options, we encourage you to contact para directly at that phone number that is on the screen and within our slides. All right, so working after retirement for para and what types of considerations have. So if you are a para retiree and planning to return to work at CSU or another para employer, there are definitely important restrictions to be aware of. So retirees cannot work on the first business day of the month in which their retirement is effective or during the effective month of retirement. So if you do return to work for a para-affiliated employer like CSU, during that month, your monthly benefit will be reduced or delayed for each day worked in that month. So definitely in your best interest to take off that full month of your retirement. Great time if you're going to do some traveling or just take some extra time there for that first month following your retirement. After your retirement month, you may return to work, but are limited to 110 days or 720 hours per calendar year if you return with a para employer. So keep in mind with this restriction that any day you work 4 hours or more, it counts as a full day toward that 110-day limit. So in a lot of cases, it's most beneficial to work as many hours that you can on one particular day in order to maximize that 110-day max. If you do work less than 4 hours a day, the hours count toward the 720-hour cap instead. So it's your responsibility as a retiree to track the days and the time that you work. While you don't need to report any specific hours to para, accurate tracking is going to be essential in case of a future audit. So make sure whether you did that through an Excel spreadsheet, if you're writing it down in a notebook, however you might need to report those hours just to be sure if you ever needed to show para that you've stayed under that 110-day limit. If by any chance you do exceed either of those two limits, para will reduce your future benefits accordingly. Another important piece to note is that there are no restrictions on working for a non-para employer. So opportunities outside the para system like part-time retail or seasonal work are unrestricted, and you can work there as often as you'd like. There are more details in the Para's Working After Retirement booklet, and it's linked in the presentation here as well. So that'll take you directly to the Para website to find more specific information there. Then the second part for impacts and considerations, as Erin mentioned previously, if you return in a benefits eligible position at CSU, it will pause any post-retirement benefits that you may be receiving. And if your new position requires enrollment in the defined contribution plan, CSU's employer contribution will be offset to zero due to the contributions owed to para from CSU for employing a para retiree. All right, so move to Medicare. For employees nearing age 65, Medicare is definitely a key part of that retirement process. And navigating it can be overwhelming, and especially trying to coordinate it with CSU benefits or time it with retirement. We have a service that we partnered with our Anthem team where Anthem's Move to Medicare concierge service comes in. It's a free resource to help employees explore Medicare options, understand eligibility and enrollment timelines, and help make decisions when it comes to Medicare. Support's available either through phone or by email. You can see the Medicare VIP email address there for questions and specific tailored advice. So you can definitely reach out to them, have a great conversation, and they can help guide you with those Medicare options. When you are ready to enroll in Medicare, it's recommended that you do apply within about 3 months of either your 65th birthday or if you're already eligible, within 3 months of your CSU group health plan ending. Other resources have, including reaching out to our local support partners like the Aspen Club in Larimer County, or by visiting shiphelp.org to find Medicare counselors by the region where you live. If you are eligible for Medicare and had deferred your enrollment due to being covered under CSU's health plan, our benefits team will help you in completing a healthcare verification form that you'll need when you apply to Medicare. So this form confirms previous group healthcare coverage, which prevents a penalty for being assessed to you for not enrolling in Medicare at the time you became eligible. All right, other healthcare options. So in addition to Medicare, retirees may want to consider other healthcare options, which may be coverage through a spouse or partner. If you need us to provide any type of letter or documentation showing that your coverage has ended in order to be added to another group health plan, we can definitely provide that to you as part of our retirement counseling. Secondly, you can receive assistance from a licensed broker if you're looking for individual coverages, or you can look at private plans through Connect for Health Colorado, which is the state's insurance marketplace. The other option is COBRA coverage, which is available for a limited time after retirement. So for faculty and admin pro retirees, they will enroll through WEX. State classified retirees will enroll through Business Solvers, and the COBRA enrollment materials are mailed to the retiree's address within about 7 to 10 days following retirement. Employees then have 60 days to elect coverage, which is retroactive to the first of the month following retirement, once that first payment is made. So even if you don't plan to take advantage of COBRA, that paperwork's going to come to you automatically either way. You can shred it if you don't need it. You can definitely take the time to assess your other healthcare options before deciding to enroll in the COBRA coverage. Then for para-retirees, ParaCare offers a variety of pre-Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans. So if you do a plan to apply for Medicare, or excuse me, for ParaCare at the time that you apply for retirement, you can also submit that application at the time that you send in your para retirement application as well. All right, I think I'm gonna stop there before we go into transitionals and see what kind of questions are in the chat here in the Q&A. All right, it looks like if a retiree, this is going to go back to the DCP a little bit, but if a retiree does not enroll in the DCP medical premium for 1 or more years, can they re-enroll at a later date when the benefit might be needed, or does enrollment need to be continuous? So that is a great question. You can enroll in the DCP medical premium refund later. So if you find that it's not, maybe you don't have an out-of-pocket cost at the time that you retire, or there's very minimal amounts, you can definitely enroll. There's 2 periods. You can either let us know at any point, let's say mid-year, you intend on enrolling, you have a new plan that begins in July. If you let us know at that point that you are going to have an out-of-pocket cost for premiums, we will start your benefit the first of the month following the notification to WEX to enroll in that DCP premium refund. There also is a recertification period annually where we send notification to our DCP retirees, and every retiree at that point has to recertify their premiums for the next calendar year. So an employee can always enroll at that point in time. So it doesn't require that you enroll as soon as you retire from the university. So great question. All right, another question. Is it acceptable to schedule a retirement counseling session in HR? The soonest they may be retiring is within a year away. Yes, absolutely. Anytime that you want to start having those conversations, you can definitely give us a call, and we can do even just a very general overview and processing for retirement counseling. And then our team is happy to meet with you again as you approach that retirement date or make final decisions as you move forward. So definitely what works best for you, you can reach out to our team and we're happy to accommodate. All right, another question, how long can COBRA coverage last? So COBRA coverage is available for up to 18 months. So you do have to apply within that 60 days, but once you make that election into the plan, you can be covered for up to 18 months. All right, let's see. If I retire at age 60 with 30 years of service, with the DCP retirement plan, I believe I am eligible for the program you outlined with WEX. However, when I turn 65, will I be required to move to Medicare, and how does that work in relation to CSU's coverage for premiums? Yes, great question. So that DCP refund can be used for either pre-Medicare or Medicare plans. So what we see a lot of times is that maybe you're paying a pre-Medicare plan that costs $500 a month, but you're eligible for the maximum, which is $648. That's for those with 20 or more years of service. So if we'll reimburse those premiums for you for the $500 until you enroll in Medicare, and maybe your Medicare cost for now Part B and a Advantage plan is $450. You'll just give us a notification and let us know that your new Medicare costs are $450, and then we'll adjust that premium refund to you for that Medicare plan. So you can use it for pre-Medicare or Medicare plans. It can also be used for the COBRA plans as well. So as long as you have that out-of-pocket expense for medical premiums, that DCP refund is going to be available. All right, so let's see. When returning to CSU after retirement, do you have to use CSU benefits, giving up the Medicare Advantage plan? So that is completely your decision as far as what medical coverage might mean for you. So even if you do return in a benefits eligible position, you can definitely stay with the same healthcare plan that you had during retirement or in that transition period for retirement. And you can waive those coverages. Just know, again, if you are eligible for the DCP refund or the para subsidy, and you do return in the benefits eligible position, those post-retirement benefits will stop until you're no longer eligible. So that can help you make a decision too, if whether you enroll in Medicare at that time or you remain eligible and keep your enrollment with Medicare. You can also enroll in the CSU health plan and keep your Medicare plan if you'd like to do that. CSU's plan pays primary over Medicare. It doesn't act as a supplement or have any type of coordination with like an Advantage plan, but it will pay primary over Medicare if you are enrolled in both plans. All right, and I think the last question before I move into transitionals, where will this recording and slides be posted? So we have a section right on our benefits page that has our educational sessions and other presentations right from that main page, and it'll take you to the list of any of the presentations, this one and any others that we've held in the last year as well. All right, I think that's what we have at the moment, and I will move into transitional. All right, so transitional retirement is available to tenure track faculty. This option allows faculty to gradually reduce their workload over a half-time appointment for up to 4 years, for at least 1 year, but up to 4 years before fully retiring. So to be eligible, an employee must be retirement eligible at the time of full retirement and must officially retire before the transitional period begins. So for example, a 9-month faculty member might retire on May 15th and begin their transitional appointment in the fall semester. Alternatively, retirement could occur at the end of the fall semester for a spring start date. So the typical work patterns on a transitional include working 1 full semester and being inactive the other, or working both semesters at a half-time status. Summer sessions are also generally not available on transitional appointment, and pay is only received during the months in which the faculty member is working. The one thing to note as well is that pay cannot be spread out over the non-working months. So if you are working the one semester on and one semester off, you'll receive pay for that full semester and then no pay for the inactive semester. So we'll talk more about benefits and the processing of those as well in the next slide, I believe. All right, so faculty should begin this process early. So ideally, requests should be submitted one full academic year in advance. The faculty member and their department will negotiate the terms of the transitional appointment. And the way to do this is there's a form that's available on the provost's office's website, and it must be submitted to the department head and the department's HR partner first, and that will be routed through the internal signatures. Then it'll come to HR, and then HR will verify the retirement eligibility and then route the form for signatures once we have signed it off to the provost's office and then off to the president's office for final approval. One final piece about the transitional retirement is all benefits remain active during a transitional retirement, and premiums are deducted when salary is received. So cash payments are due during the inactive semesters, but the premiums will come out of any pay that is paid on those active semesters. Also, any impacts to the DCP eligibility and employer contributions based on para-retirement, as we've mentioned previously, will still apply in this situation for transitional appointments. All right, so that brings us to the end of our presentation. I'll pause here if there are any additional questions. Erin, do you see any in the Q&A?
It looks like we do have one in the chat or the Q&A about retiring and living out of the country. If you just retire and decide to live out of country, can you still receive medical coverage?
That is a great question. So that I think can be a two-part question. If you're referring specifically to coverage such as COBRA or any of the CSU related coverage, that they may be eligible if you live out of the country. We can confirm that and ensure that there would have coverage through that period of time. Otherwise, you would have to specifically check with any individual plan that you might obtain following your retirement. But if you are also referring to the DCP premium refund, you definitely can continue to receive that even if you live out of the country. So let me know if you need any other clarification or specifics on that as well. All right. Can we speak to leave balances? Yes, thank you. Great question. So the leave payouts, I'm assuming that we're referring to, are a little bit different for both the AP faculty and state classified employees. So AP employees and faculty employees at the time of retirement are eligible for up to 1/4 of their unused accrued sick leave, up to a maximum of 15 days, and then up to 24 days of their accrued unused annual leave for 12-month employees. And then for state classified employees, that changes a little bit. The maximums payouts for those are a little bit different based upon the employee's tenure. So the minimum balances, there's a maximum for those. We can definitely get those questions for you as well. But the maximums go from 5 years of service up to those with more than 15 years of service. So those slightly are different, but for the majority of those, it's going to be about 1/4 of that payout up to, I believe the state classified very max at the top is 42 days. But again, we can verify that payout information for you. All right, another transitional. Does the employee have to decide in advance the length of time on transition? So yes, great question. What we have recommended is that it's it's easier to end your transitional sooner than it is to extend your transitional. So if there seems to be maybe some uncertainty on how long that transitional might be, it's usually better to go with the extended time. So even if you were to select 2 years and then decide to only do 1 year, you can definitely end that transitional sooner. But if you choose 1 year, it's more difficult to extend that time. And if that transitional for the 1 year ends, there's not a second transitional period that begin after that period. It would have to go back through the contract process. So again, maybe look a little bit for that longer time if you're uncertain, and then just stay in communication with your department if you think that that time may change once you've applied. Another question about COBRA and the expiration date there. So that's up to COBRA will be up to 18 months. There are some extensions beyond that 18 months for purposes or situations regarding disability. That can extend another 11 months, but otherwise the very standard expiration is 18 months on that COBRA plan. And that will be both for the state classified and the faculty AP. Those are federal COBRA plans, so the criteria on those is the same. All right, so faculty admin pro leave. Can we talk about the rule using leave right before you retire? Yes, thank you. So for admin pro and faculty leave, and for annual leave usage, there is a rule that currently states that if you use any annual leave within the 30 working days, so that ends up being about 6 weeks prior to your retirement date, that any annual leave that you used is subtracted from your total payout. So even if you were to have a maximum of 24 days and you use a week's worth of time within that 6-week or 30-day period, you will be paid for 19 days of your annual leave. You'll also receive pay for the time that you used the annual leave, but the actual payout will be within 19 days. So if you have a bit of annual leave to use, it's definitely part of that planning process to try to utilize that annual leave usage before the 30 days prior to your retirement date. All right, does the 80-year rule still exist for retirement? So that likely is in reference to retirement through Colorado PARA. So based upon your entry date into PARA, your age and your service, there are different rules when those two service and age periods meet 80 years or 90 years. So it's very specific, and PARA has an outline of each of the tables that you can find within their retirement process that will tell you what table that you should be looking for based upon your entry, and whether you were vested or whether you were eligible for retirement at certain periods of time. So it is very particular per person, and PARA is able to confirm that information based upon your specific situation. All right, I think, let's see, we've made it through. There's one other question in the chat. Well, let's see, a couple here. Are there any exceptions for delayed or deferred retirement options for those under the age of 55 with at least enough qualifying service? So for example, an individual has 20 years of service but has not yet reached age 55. So in those situations, specifically for the DCP, for CSU retirement, a person does have to meet the age 55 and the service requirement. So unfortunately, there aren't any exceptions in those situations. However, under Colorado PARA, there is a specific rule that states that if an employee were hired into, I think they were, I'll have to, Erin, if we can verify that date if they were eligible as a para member, and they meet the retirement criteria through Colorado Para, but they may not quite meet the age 55 and 20 years in this particular situation. They still need to have at least 5 years of benefits eligible service, continuous service to be eligible for that retirement. There may be exception if they are considered a para-retiree. So definitely we'll get that there, but otherwise for the DCP, it does require that the age 55 and 20 years is met for retirement eligibility.
And Jackie, that para date you mentioned is June 30th, 2005.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, let's see. One other question maybe here. Is there any payout for your sick leave hours, and how many days and hours was the amount for annually for state classified employees? Yes, so for sick leave, retirement, a person does have to be eligible for retirement in order to receive a sick leave payout. So let's see, look and verify that information here. I believe it's 360 hours of sick leave is the maximum. And then again, the annual leave hours is going to be a little bit different depending on how many years of service that you have. But we can follow up specifically and provide some more information about the payouts. There is a page on our HR retirement that does specifically speak to those maximum hours depending on years of service. All right, I think that is all the questions that we currently have. So thank you so much for joining us today and for everything you do to support employees as HR partners, as a supervisor or colleagues during this important transition into retirement. You can definitely reach us at any time at HR_retirement, as you'll see on the screen there, or by visiting our website. Give us a call as well to our great HR service center at 491-6947 if you have additional questions. Appreciate you all being with us today. Thanks so much and have a great day.